The Mojave Desert stretches endlessly, a burning, golden graveyard of forgotten roads and ghost towns. Somewhere between Barstow and oblivion stands the Sunset Motel, a place untouched by progress or people. The kind of motel that doesn't show up on GPS. It just appears. And once you stay the night, it never lets you forget. James Monroe, a freelance photographer heading west, wasn't looking for trouble, just rest. The sun was bleeding out behind him, the desert casting long, twitching shadows. He'd been driving for 9 hours when he saw the flickering neon sign. Sunset Motel. Vacancy. The building seemed to rise from the dust, its windows like tired eyes, watching, waiting. He didn't know then that this motel had a story, and it was looking for someone to tell it. James pulled into the lot as the sun's last rays flared across the windshield. The motel had a dusty charm, like something from an old postcard, but with none of the warmth. There was no front desk, no visible staff, just a rusted bell on the counter inside the office. He rang it once. Nothing. Then again, and a key slid out from behind a door marked private. Just the key. No words. No faces. The tag read, Room 12. The hallway leading to Room 12 felt damp, despite the desert heat. Fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like angry wasps, flickering with every step. The door was already cracked open, just enough to suggest invitation, or a warning ignored. Inside, the room was modest, clean technically, but the air felt thick, still, like it had been waiting, stale and unbreathed, for someone to disturb it. On the nightstand was a Gideon Bible, but when James opened it, every page had been blacked out with marker, except for a single phrase on the last page. They stay. That night, James couldn't sleep. Every creak in the ceiling, every groan of the pipes, felt amplified, like the motel was whispering just below the range of human hearing. He tried the TV, hoping for distraction. Static. No channels, just white noise. And then, for a split second, a face. Not his, not anyone living. It stared, mouth agape, eyes hollow. Then the bathroom door creaked open. James froze. The room was lit only by the flickering screen. He slowly rose and crossed to the bathroom. Empty. But in the mirror above the sink, he saw movement behind him. He turned. Nothing. Turned back to the mirror. And there it was again. A shadow standing at the foot of the bed. He ran back into the room. No one there. But the bed was rumpled now, like someone had just gotten up. The next morning, James noticed a tear in the wallpaper near the headboard. Curious, he peeled it back and jumped. Beneath it was plaster, and embedded into the wall the outline of a man's face. Not painted, not art, real, trapped. It looked like someone had been screaming mid-silence. The mouth open, eyes pressed forward. He leaned closer. The face twitched, then moved. The lips mouthed something, but there was no sound. James staggered back, breathing hard. The air around him grew ice-cold, frost forming on the mirror. He turned and saw the words written in condensation. Don't check out. That's when he noticed. There was no phone in the room, no cell signal, no front office, no visible road outside the window, just empty desert. James ran into the hallway. It was different now, longer, darker, and colder. Every door was labeled 12. He ran past them, calling out, but his voice was muffled, like shouting into a dream. The hallway bent in impossible angles. Then he saw them, the other guests. They moved like shadows trapped in time, their faces warped as if caught mid-photo. One of them, an old woman in a blood-stained nightgown, turned toward him and whispered, "We checked in too." Her voice echoed from every wall. He turned to run, but the door at the end of the hallway opened, revealing his own room. The bed was made, the TV was off, and on the nightstand was the key. Same tag, Room 12. James finally made it back to his room, or what was left of it. The wallpaper had peeled entirely. The furniture was covered in dust. The TV was smashed, and above the bed, carved into the headboard, was a tally. Dozens of names scratched into the wood. In the bathroom mirror, James saw himself, older, sunken-eyed, hollow. He touched the reflection, and it didn't mimic him. Instead, it smiled. Behind him, in the mirror's view, a dozen shadowy figures stood silently in the corners of the room. He spun around. Empty. The mirror showed one thing. Reality showed another. The digital clock blinked 12 o'clock. Then the lights went out. When the power came back on, James noticed something he hadn't before. A small wooden cabinet beneath the TV. It had clearly been sealed shut for a long time. The wood splintered as he forced it open, revealing a stack of old VHS tapes covered in dust and cobwebs. Each was labeled in fading red ink. Guest log 1986, guest log 1991, and so on. Curiosity gnawed at him. He found an old TV/VCR combo behind the dresser. It screeched as it accepted the tape. The footage was grainy. A man sat in the very room James now occupied. He looked afraid, whispering into the camera. "If anyone finds this, don't sleep here. Don't dream." Then came a static burst and screaming. The man vanished. The screen filled with frantic images. People clawing at the walls, banging on mirrors, being pulled into the floor. Then, the final frame, a still image of room 12, door ajar, and in the bottom right corner, James saw something that made his heart seize. It was his own face, watching, from the mirror. James became obsessed with the mirror. He noticed that, no matter where he stood in the room, his reflection was always slightly off, slightly delayed, sometimes smiling when he wasn't. Late that night, he pressed his ear to the glass. Beneath the silence, he heard something scratching, breathing, a voice whispering his name backwards, Samaj. Driven by desperation, he took a chair and smashed the mirror. Behind it was no wall, just a narrow black space, a crawl space. With the flashlight on his phone, James peered inside. The walls were padded with red velvet, stained dark. Dozens of Polaroids lined the space, each showing a different guest. All in room 12. Some smiled, some screamed. One showed James, taken at an angle he didn't recognize. There was also a journal, its cover cracked and blackened. Inside, a single phrase repeated over and over. Room 12 is the body. The mirror is the mouth. James took one of the Polaroids, his own. He flipped it over. There was a message scrawled on the back in messy, blood-red ink. "It saw you first." Suddenly, the room began to vibrate, subtle at first, then violently. The Polaroid in his hand screamed. A sound that didn't come from the photo itself, but from inside his head. It was as if the image contained a soul. His soul. James dropped it. The scream stopped. He looked around and realized every photo was facing him now. Turned. As if they had moved. The faces inside them were now watching. Their eyes bled black ink, and some of them smiled. And then, the closet door opened. From within, footsteps. Then breathing. Frantic and desperate to leave, James returned to the motel office, now lit only by a single buzzing bulb. He forced the locked drawer open behind the counter and found an old leather guest register. He flipped through it. Every entry was in the same handwriting, no matter the date or name, and none had a checkout time. The final entry chilled him. Monroe, James. Room 12. Arrival. Sunset. Departure. The dash stretched across the page. Unfinished. Undecided. Ominous. Then he heard it. The bell at the front desk. Ding. He turned. No one was there. But now, written below his name, someone had added, "Departed." He checked his phone. No signal. The time blinked 12 o'clock. Same as before. A loop. Or a trap. James ran back outside. But the desert was gone. No car. No road. Just blackness. Infinite. The stars above were wrong. Too close, too fast, spinning like a vortex. He turned back to the motel. It had changed. The neon sign now flickered a new message. "Welcome back." Room 12's door swung open slowly. Inside, everything was the same, except the bed was occupied. Someone was lying in it. James crept forward. The man in the bed was him, but decayed, sunken, lifeless. Yet its eyes opened. "You were always here," it whispered. "You never left." James screamed, but there was no sound, only silence, then darkness. James didn't know how long he'd been screaming, or if he ever started. Time was fractured here. Every second passed like a slow drip of black molasses. He backed away from his own corpse, bumping into something soft. Curtain. But there hadn't been a curtain before. He pulled it back. Behind it stood dozens of motel guests, shoulder to shoulder, pressed into the walls. Men, women, children, some dressed in vintage clothing. All of them stared silently at him. Pale skin, mouth sewn shut, eyes pleading. Suddenly, one of them moved. A woman, 1960s hairstyle, yellow nightgown. Her sewn lips parted. She whispered without speaking, "You're next." And just like that, they all vanished, as if inhaled by the motel itself. The motel had shifted again. The hallway now extended beyond where it should end. A single room waited at the end, room 0. James opened the door. The room was enormous. A ballroom-sized void filled with water, ankle deep. 100 motel keys floated on the surface. One for each soul that had never checked out. In the center of the room, a man in a bellhop uniform stood motionless, holding a clipboard. He had no eyes, no lips, just smooth skin where his face should be. James approached. The bellhop handed him the clipboard. There was only one question. "Do you accept permanent residency?" "Yes." "No." But there was no pen. And no matter how hard he tried to speak, James's mouth produced no sound. The bellhop waited. James fled room 0, water sloshing underfoot, breath ragged. He burst back into the lobby, where the rotary phone on the counter rang. Ring, ring, ring. He answered it. A voice whispered, "We remember you. We always do. You just keep forgetting." Another voice, childlike, said, "You used to work here." The line went dead. The floorboards beneath him cracked. He fell through into total darkness. And in that void he saw it all, every version of himself, through every decade, checking in, checking out, dying, returning, over and over, an infinite loop of self spiraling down. James awoke in a different room, back in room 12, but now it was pristine. Fresh towels, soft music playing, sunlight streamed through the curtains. He felt rested. Had it all been a dream? He turned on the TV. A commercial played. Visit the newly renovated Sunset Motel, where the view is eternal. The smile on the screen looked just like his. He walked outside. The parking lot was full of old, rusting cars. None had moved in decades. A faded sign read, "No vacancy." And when he looked into the reflection of the motel window, he saw himself behind the counter. Bellhop uniform, smiling. Another car pulled in. A man stepped out, tired, lost. Looked just like James had once. It was starting again. Years pass. Or days. Or maybe no time at all. James now checks in guests at the front desk of the Sunset Motel. He wears the bellhop uniform. His smile never quite reaches his eyes. Every night, a new guest arrives. Each thinks they found this place by accident. Lost GPS, flat tire. Just one night. Each one leaves screaming or never at all. James leads them to room 12. Always room 12. Sometimes he tries to remember who he was. But the memories are like water through fingers. Slipping, reshaping, vanishing. Above the counter, a new sign flickers in red neon. "You've been expected." And behind him, through the door to room 0, the other Jameses wait. James stood frozen in front of the guest book. His name now had a fresh entry beside it. Departed, scrawled in thick, bleeding ink. But he was still here. He hadn't left. The desk bell rang again. Louder this time. The echo stretching unnaturally through the stale air. Overhead, the fluorescent lights flickered once, then went out completely, plunging everything into a suffocating darkness. Panicking, James turned and sprinted toward the parking lot. But the lot was gone. No cars. No road. Only a flat, endless desert, stretching into a starless void. Desperate, he turned back toward the office. But the building had vanished. Only room 12 remained. standing alone in the middle of the nothingness. Its door swung open slowly, creaking like a groan from deep within the earth. Inside, the familiar bed awaited him. A single key sat on the nightstand, gleaming under an unnatural pale light. Room 12 vacancy. From the dunes, the whispering began again, calling him by name. James understood then. He was no longer a guest. He was part of the motel now, forever. If you enjoyed tonight's chilling tale, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps summon more spooky stories for you. Subscribe and turn on the bell so you never miss a night at the edge of fear. And tell me in the comments. Until next time, sleep tight, if you can.